Okay, class. Let's do a couple more things with Illustrator before we move on to InDesign. As far as the InDesign tutorials that I had you guys do, keep working on those. If you haven't finished them, get them finished as soon as you can. We will be using InDesign shortly for our last project or two, but I want to have you guys do a couple more things in Illustrator before we're finished. So what I'm going to have you guys do this time is create an icon letter using a letter form of the letter of your name. You could use the first letter of your first name or the first letter of your last name. It doesn't really matter to me. What is important to me is that you guys learn these principles, and then you also learn how to manipulate letter forms and manipulate objects and lines and vectors in Illustrator. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want to do first is create a new document. I'll do it this way. I'll hit the Create New button right here. And I'm just going to do this in letter size. So I'll change this from points to inches. And yeah, 8.5 by 11 letter. I want to do, let's see, let's do 4 different versions because I'm going to have you guys use 4 different types of methods or tools with this. So you'll be creating 4 different icons using that same letter. So let's go ahead and change that to 4 artboards. And you can keep the orientation, portrait. I don't care if you do it landscape or portrait, whatever suits you. We won't need bleeds because this letter form is just going to be in the middle of the page somewhere. And I'm going to take that and hit create. All right, it's coming along. Okay. Awesome. So now you can see that I've got 4 documents open here, or 4 artboards, I'm sorry, in this single document in Illustrator. And I'm going to put down a letter form and for each one of these pages, and I'll show you how to manipulate each one. So I'm going to take my type tool right here. I'm going to click over here on one of the pages. In fact, I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, so you can see that one artboard a little bit better. Okay. Excuse me. And with that type tool, I'll click once and type in that letter form. This one's going to be an S. I'll use the first letter of my last name for this one. I don't know why, I just picked it. Let's hope it works. All right, now that I've laid that S down, I can go to my move tool, click on it, and go to the corner and scale it up. That's how I can increase my type size. I can also take my type tool, right, highlight it, and increase the size right here. Okay. So this doesn't have to be a certain size. I'll just want it big to take up a significant portion of your page. So I'll just click on 72 there and then take my move tool and go to the corner and scale it up. Now remember, if you hold down shift as you scale, it keeps proportions. If you don't hold down shift, it stretches your type. And that'll degrade the letter form. I do not want you to do that. I want you to hold down shift as you scale this up. So do not degrade your letter forms in this manner. I'll show you guys the allowed ways that I want you to manipulate this letter form. And one of those ways is not stretching it. Okay, so when you scale it up, hold down shift, okay, and then let go of the click before you let go of the shift key. All right, now I'm going to take this and move it around. Now I can keep that letter form. That letter form's not that interesting to me. So I'll go to my characters and see if there is another letter that is a little more interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, look at what I drew. No, don't use dingbats, wingbats, or any other type of image type font. I want you to just use a letter form. Okay, so this is pretty cool right here. Just my basic times. It's like that's a nice strong letter form I think that I can start with on this one. So I'll use times for that one, and then I'll put down. Maybe I'll try a different font with each one of these, and maybe that's what I'll have you do. I'll have you try a different font for each one of these compositions on each one of these artboards. So without having to take my type tool again and type another S over here and go through that whole process again, I can just click on this and hit copy and paste, which is Command or Control C and Command or Control V. Okay, and then I can just move it onto my page over there. Another thing that I can do is click on this page and hit Command C, and then click on this page over here and hit Command paste. All right, or probably the best method, I think what I'll do is hold down Option, okay, copy and paste, Command C, Command V is awesome. I could do that. It works just fine. A way that I like to duplicate objects and keep them aligned is just by hitting Option and then clicking and dragging them. Okay, if I hit Option on the keyboard, watch what happens to my cursor. It gives me a little white arrow by that black arrow, and that's telling me that it's going to duplicate it if I move it while holding down Option. So I'll hit Option, click and drag, and it duplicates it. Okay, now if I want to drag that straight, I'll hold down Option, click, and then as I drag, I'll hold down Shift. Okay, as I hold down Shift, that will drag it, that will restrain it so that it drags in a straight line. Okay. All right, and I can do this with both of these now. I can rubber band select both of these. Okay, so with my move tool, I'm going to rubber band select both of those, hold down Option, and then click and drag while holding down Shift, and then let go of my click, and then let go of my keys on my keyboard. Okay. Now, if this is hard for you to do, if it's not making much sense to you, again, what you do is you click on it, on the object you want to duplicate, hold down Option, click, and move it, and it duplicates it. Okay, and this whole time, I'm not letting go of Option until I'm done moving it. So click, Option, click and move, let go of the click, and then I let go of Option. Okay. And I'm just Command Z, I undid all of that. So let me just do this again. Okay, click on it, Option, click and drag, but I want it to drag in a straight line, so I'm going to hold down Shift, and then kind of shoot somewhere for the center. I'm not going to be too picky, and I'm going to let go. Okay, and then I'll take these two, rubber band select both of them, hold down Option, click, and as I drag, holding down Shift, and then let go. Okay. Now I want to change the fonts for each one of these. So this one I'll keep as times. This one, let's see, what will be a good one? Maybe a sans serif. Serif means these little feet, right? A serif. So this is a serif font because it's got these little feet on them. And a sans serif font means without serif. Okay, so something that's without serif is like Futura. Okay, so that's a sans serif font. What else is there? Maybe something a little, I don't really like that one, but For sake of time, yeah, for sake of time, I'll keep this one. Okay, and then this one, I don't want you guys to use any gimmicky fonts, and what I mean by gimmicky is like this. Don't use anything that's like already looks cliche or gimmicky. I want you guys to use real structured letter forms. Okay, so like Times or Futura or Helvetica or Bodoni or Caslon or whatever. Use those structured fonts. We're going to manipulate them away from their structure ourselves. So start with a good, strong, structured font. All right. Let's see. Not chalkboard, not Comic Sans, not Papyrus. Okay, nothing like funky Cloister Black, nothing like Clunker. Okay, Comic Pro, no. Okay, I want you to use, okay, this copper plate, that's okay. All right, and then let's change the last one. And I'll end this video after I get all of these fonts in here, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, not American Highway, not Amelia. All right, Arial Black. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go with that. Okay, now let's get these things centered on the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this one, this font, or this S on this page. So I'll highlight that, and then I'll go to my Align button up here at the top. You can see it up here. Okay, I'll click on the line. If you don't see a line up here, or if you don't see a line down here, just go to your window and down to Align, and you can open up that palette that way. All right, so with this selected on that page, I'm going to go to my Align palette, and at the bottom right, I want to make sure that Align to Artboard is selected. Okay, if that's selected, then every time I hit center vertically and center horizontally, it's going to center on that page. So make sure Align to Artboard selected, hit center that way and center that way. All right, it's centered on my page, at least as a font. Okay, we might have to, in its font form, it's centered. It kind of looks like it's sticking up towards the top, but that'll change as we manipulate this type form. Okay, so let's do that to the other remaining three, and then we'll terminate this video. So I'm going to highlight that, and I want to make sure that I'm clicking on this artboard so that it doesn't think that I'm on this artboard. So that's why I kind of click and drag over this artboard, and I click on that artboard first, so Illustrator knows that I'm working on this artboard. Now go to Align, Center, Center. Okay, click on this one, and center, center. Now click on this one and center, center. All right. So now I'm going to save this, File, Save As, and I'm going to call this my letter form assignment. And right now I'll just save it to the desktop. Okay. Just as a regular Adobe Illustrator, and hit save. The version here, it'll always default to the latest version, but just so you know, this next window allows me to save it down to lower versions if I have to. And hit OK.